The condom wrapper wasn't even hidden. It was right there on top of the bathroom trash, mocking me like some cruel joke I wasn't supposed to understand. I stood there in our bathroom that Tuesday morning, staring at that little foil square like it might suddenly explain itself. My mind went blank, then raced, then blank again. We didn't use condoms. We hadn't for years. Not since Britney went on birth control after we got married 12 years ago. My name's Sam, I'm 37, and I work as a credit analyst at First National Bank here in Omaha. It's steady work, nothing glamorous. I spend my days reviewing loan applications, running risk assessments, making sure numbers add up. My whole career is built on spotting inconsistencies, finding the details that don't fit. And right then, holding that wrapper between my fingers, every instinct I'd honed over 15 years in banking was screaming that something was catastrophically wrong. Britney manages the Riverside in downtown, one of those boutique hotels that caters to business travelers and weekend tourists. She's good at her job, charming, organized, always knows how to make people feel welcome. We met at a charity fundraiser back in 2011, got married 2 years later. No kids, we talked about it early on, decided we wanted to focus on our careers first. Then the years just kept passing, and the conversation never came back around. Now I was grateful we'd waited. I tucked the wrapper into my wallet and went to work, but I couldn't focus. Every loan application looked like nonsense. Numbers swam on my screen. My colleague Roy asked if I was feeling okay. Apparently I'd been staring at the same credit report for 40 minutes. Just tired, I told him. Roy leaned against my cubicle wall, concerned. You sure? You look like you've seen a ghost. Bad night's sleep, I said, forcing a smile. Too much coffee this morning, not enough water. I'll be fine. But I wasn't fine. Every time I tried to concentrate on the commercial real estate loan in front of me, a straightforward refinancing deal that should have taken me 20 minutes to assess, my mind drifted back to that bathroom. That wrapper. The casual way it had been left there, as if whoever dropped it didn't care whether I found it or not. The thought made my stomach turn. Was this the first time? Or had there been others, and I'd just been too trusting, too oblivious, too busy with my own work to notice? I pulled out my phone and opened our shared calendar. Britney's schedule was always meticulously updated. She prided herself on organization. I scrolled back through the past few months, looking for patterns. Late nights at the hotel weren't unusual. She was management, and management meant staying late for events, covering shifts when staff called in sick, handling guest emergencies. But as I looked closer, I noticed something odd. Every Tuesday and Thursday for the past several weeks, she'd marked inventory, from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. I'd been a credit analyst long enough to know that inventory didn't happen twice a week, every week, at the exact same times. Inventory was monthly, maybe quarterly, and it definitely didn't require 3 hours in the evening. My hands were shaking as I texted her. Hey, working late tonight? The response came quickly. Probably until 8. Inventory night. You know how it is. I knew how it was, all right. I was starting to understand exactly how it was. That afternoon, I left work early, claiming a headache. Roy gave me a knowing look, but didn't push. I drove home slowly, my mind churning through possibilities, each one worse than the last. Maybe there was an explanation. Maybe she'd bought condoms for some other reason, though I couldn't imagine what. Maybe I was paranoid, seeing shadows where there were none. But when I walked into our house, the one we'd bought together 7 years ago in a quiet neighborhood near Elmwood Park, everything looked different. The living room where we'd hosted friends for game nights suddenly felt staged, like a movie set. The kitchen where I'd made breakfast every Sunday for 12 years felt hollow. Our wedding photo on the mantel, both of us grinning, impossibly young, impossibly naive, looked like evidence of a crime I hadn't known was being committed. I walked through each room, looking for more evidence, but not wanting to find any. In the bedroom, I checked the nightstand on her side. Nothing unusual. The closet was just a closet. The bathroom yielded no additional wrappers. But then I checked the laundry hamper, something I rarely did since Britney usually handled the washing. Buried near the bottom, I found a shirt I'd never seen before, men's size large, dark blue, expensive brand. I wear medium. Always have. The shirt smelled like cologne I didn't recognize. I sat on the edge of our bed, holding this stranger's shirt, and felt something inside me crack. Not break, not yet, but definitely crack. Like ice on a lake at the end of winter, that first spiderweb of fractures that tells you the surface won't hold much longer. My phone buzzed. Britney, heading into inventory. Probably won't be able to text for a while. Love you. Love you. 2 words that had meant everything for 12 years, now felt like the setup for a punchline I didn't want to hear. I couldn't stay in that house. I grabbed my keys and drove aimlessly through Omaha, past the old market where Britney and I had gone on our first official date, past the Durham Museum where we'd gotten engaged, past the botanical gardens where we'd taken engagement photos. Every landmark of our relationship felt like a monument to something that maybe had never been real. I ended up at a sports bar near my office, ordered a beer I didn't want, and tried to think rationally. What did I actually know? I'd found a condom wrapper. I'd found a shirt that wasn't mine. I'd noticed a pattern of suspicious late nights that didn't match reality. It wasn't proof, not the kind that would hold up in court anyway, but it was enough. Enough to know something was very, very wrong. Roy called around 7. "Hey man, you feeling better?" "Not really," I admitted. "Want company? I can ditch Evelina's book club thing." "Nah, I'm okay. Just need to sleep it off." "All right. But Sam? Whatever's going on, you know I'm here, right?" Roy had known me since college. We'd started at First National the same year, worked our way up together. If anyone could read me, it was him. But I wasn't ready to say it out loud yet. Saying it would make it real. "I know," I said. "Thanks, man." I drove home around 8:30. Brittany's car was in the driveway. She must have gotten home early. Or maybe inventory had never existed in the first place. When I walked in, she was in the kitchen, making tea like nothing was wrong. She smiled when she saw me. "Hey, you're home. I thought you had that late conference call." I hadn't mentioned a conference call. That was tomorrow's lie, the one I'd been planning to use to come home early and see what I'd find. "Cancelled," I said carefully. "How was inventory?" "Oh, tedious. Found out we're way overstocked on toiletries, understocked on linens. The usual excitement." She laughed, and it sounded genuine. Maybe it was genuine. Maybe she was just that good at lying. "You seem tired," I said. "Long day. I'm going to take a bath and head to bed early." She kissed my cheek on her way past, the same casual kiss she'd given me thousands of times before, and disappeared upstairs. I stood in our kitchen, listening to the bath water run, and made a decision. I needed proof. Real proof. Because I couldn't spend the rest of my life wondering, couldn't confront her with suspicions and maybes. I needed to know for certain. Over the next week, I found 2 more condom wrappers. Same brand, same careless disposal in the bathroom trash. Whoever this was, they were getting comfortable. Too comfortable. I started documenting everything. Took photos of the wrappers, noted the dates I found them, cross-referenced them with Britney's calendar. A pattern emerged, Tuesday and Thursday evenings like clockwork. The nights she claimed to be doing inventory or handling emergency hotel situations. On Tuesday of the second week, I told Britney I had a major commercial loan review that would keep me at the office until 9. She seemed relieved, actually relieved, and that told me everything I needed to know. I left work at 3, parked 2 blocks from our house, and waited. At 4:30, a silver BMW pulled into our driveway. A man got out, tall, well-dressed, confident. Even from a distance, even after 4 years of not seeing him, I recognized Leon Crawford. Leon, my friend from college. The guy who'd introduced me to Britney in the first place at that charity fundraiser. The guy who'd been my best man at our wedding, who'd given that beautiful toast about friendship and loyalty that made Britney cry. I watched him walk up to my front door, watched my wife open it, watched them embrace in a way that left no doubt about what was happening here. I sat in my car for 2 more hours, rage and disbelief and something like grief all fighting for dominance. I could have confronted them right then, could have stormed in and made a scene. But something held me back. Some instinct told me to wait, to see this through, to catch them in a way they couldn't deny or explain away. At 6:30, I drove around the block, parked in my usual spot, and unlocked the front door as quietly as I could manage. I heard them before I saw them. Britney's laugh, low and intimate, coming from our bedroom. Leon's voice responding, familiar in a way that made my stomach drop. I pushed open the bedroom door. They were on our bed, my wife and Leon Crawford. Leon, who'd been my best friend in college. Leon, who'd been in our wedding party. Leon, who I hadn't spoken to in probably 4 years after he moved to Denver for work. He was back in Omaha now, apparently. Very much back. They both froze. Britney grabbed the sheet. Leon sat up, and I saw something on his face that wasn't quite guilt. More like resignation, like he'd been waiting for this moment. "Sam," Britney started. "Don't." My voice didn't sound like mine. "Don't say my name right now." Leon was pulling on his pants. I wanted to hit him, wanted to rage, but instead I just stood there, every emotion canceling each other out until I felt nothing at all. How long? I asked. Britney wrapped the sheet tighter around herself. Does it matter? How long? Leon answered instead. 8 months. 8 months. I did the math automatically. That was right around when Britney mentioned she'd run into an old friend of mine at the hotel bar. She'd said it was funny, seeing someone from my past after all these years. She'd even suggested we all get dinner sometime. I'd been too busy with a major audit to follow up. Get out, I said to Leon. Get out of my house. He finished dressing in silence and left. I heard the front door close. Britney and I stared at each other across our bedroom. The room we'd painted together 6 years ago. The bed we'd picked out together. The life we'd built together. I'm pregnant, she said suddenly. The words hit me like a physical blow. What? I was pregnant. Last month. I took care of it. Took care of it? My voice rose. You mean? I had an abortion 3 weeks ago. Leon drove me to the clinic. I had to sit down. My legs just gave out, and I ended up on the floor, back against the wall. Was it his? She didn't answer, which was answer enough. Why? I asked. Why him? Why any of this? Britney pulled on a robe and sat on the edge of the bed. Because he sees me. Because when I talk, he listens. Because I fell in love with him, Sam. I fell out of love with you a long time ago, and I didn't know how to tell you. So you didn't tell me. You just, what? Decided to destroy everything instead. I didn't plan it, she said, and I almost laughed because of course she didn't. Nobody ever plans it. He came into the hotel last winter for a business trip. We got drinks after my shift, caught up. It felt like old times, like college, when everything was easy and fun and I was right there, buying you drinks and making you laugh. I finished. I was there, Britney. I was always there. I know. She was crying now. I know you were, and you were good to me, Sam. You were kind and steady, and exactly what I thought I wanted. But Leon makes me feel alive. I stood up. My credit analyst brain was kicking back in, running calculations, assessing damage. I want you out of this house by the end of the week. Sam, I'll call a divorce lawyer tomorrow. We'll split everything 50-50. I don't care about the house or the money. I just want you gone. She nodded, wiping her eyes. Okay. And Britney? I hope he's worth it. She didn't answer that either. I spent that night at a hotel, ironic considering. Roy's wife Evelina recommended their lawyer, a sharp woman named Victoria who specialized in quick, clean divorces. Nebraska's a no-fault state, which made things simpler. Britney didn't fight anything. She moved in with Leon within the week, into some apartment near downtown. But I wasn't done. Not even close. See, Leon worked in pharmaceutical sales, and I knew from our college days that he'd always been careless about following rules. A little creative with expense reports, a little loose with client entertainment budgets. So I started digging. I had a friend from college who worked in compliance at Leon's company. James owed me a favor from years back when I'd helped him restructure his mortgage to avoid foreclosure. I called it in. Just hypothetically, I said over drinks one evening, if someone wanted to report suspicious expense patterns or potential kickback schemes in pharmaceutical sales, how would they go about that? James raised an eyebrow. Hypothetically, they'd need documentation, evidence of physicians receiving improper incentives, maybe proof of off-label promotion, that kind of thing. And if someone had access to, say, 8 months' worth of email correspondence that might contain such evidence, then hypothetically, that someone would be doing the company and the industry a huge favor. Britney had been sloppy in more ways than one. She'd used our shared laptop sometimes when Leon stayed over, and she never logged out of her email. I found everything, Leon discussing trips he'd arranged for doctors, Leon bragging about creative ways to classify bribes as consulting fees, Leon detailing exactly the kind of industry violations that could end careers. I sent it all to James anonymously. Then I sent copies to the state pharmacy board, then to Leon's company's internal ethics hotline. Within 3 weeks, Leon was under investigation. Within 2 months, he was fired. His license to practice pharmaceutical sales in Nebraska was suspended pending review. Britney called me once during all this. Did you do this? Did you report him? I have no idea what you're talking about, I said calmly. But you know what's funny? Leon always was sloppy with details. I guess some people never change. You're destroying his life. No, Britney. He destroyed his own life by breaking the law. I just help people notice. She hung up. The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday in June, exactly 3 months after I found that first condom wrapper. We split the house sale 50-50 like I'd promised. I moved into a condo near the old market, started going to the gym again, reconnected with friends I'd neglected. Through the grapevine, which in Omaha is never more than 2 people away from anyone, I heard that Britney and Leon's relationship was struggling. Turns out being unemployed and under investigation put strain on a romance. Who knew? Melinda, who worked with Britney at the Riverside Inn, told Roy's wife, who told Roy, who told me that Britney had asked for her old manager position back after Leon couldn't find work. The hotel said no, they'd already hired her replacement. She ended up taking a front desk position at a chain hotel near the airport, a significant step down. Leon eventually found work selling insurance, a career downgrade that must have burned after years in pharmaceutical sales. They moved to a smaller apartment. The excitement of their affair, built on hotel bars and secret meetings and stolen moments, apparently didn't translate well to everyday life with real consequences. I ran into them once, in September, at a grocery store near Westroads Mall. Britney looked tired but not defeated. She was stronger than that. Leon looked smaller, somehow diminished. They were arguing about which brand of coffee to buy, one of those quiet domestic disputes that means everything and nothing. Britney saw me first. For a moment, our eyes met across the produce section. I saw her calculate whether to approach, whether to say something. I gave her the smallest nod. Not forgiveness, not reconciliation, just acknowledgement that we'd both survived this, and turned away. I heard later, through Melinda, through Evelina, through Roy, that Britney's parents had essentially disowned her. They'd loved me, had always treated me like a son. When they learned what she'd done, not just the cheating, but with Leon specifically, someone who'd been our friend, they'd told her they were ashamed. Her younger sister stopped returning her calls. Leon's situation was worse. His ex-wife, who he'd divorced 5 years before all this, used his ethics violations to file for full custody of their 2 kids. She won. He got supervised visitation twice a month. The thing about revenge, real revenge, the kind that lasts, is that you don't have to do much. People destroy themselves. You just have to make sure the right people see it happening. Did I feel guilty? Sometimes late at night, when I was honest with myself. But then I'd remember Britney's face when she told me about the abortion, remember standing in my own bedroom watching my life implode, remember 8 months of lies. And I'd remember that Leon wasn't just some stranger, he'd been my friend. He'd stood up at my wedding and gave a toast about loyalty and friendship that made people cry. That's what made it unforgivable. Not just the affair, but the betrayal of everything that word friend was supposed to mean. By October, I was dating someone new, a dental hygienist named Andrea who'd never been married, who laughed at my jokes, who didn't make me feel like I was failing some invisible test I didn't know I was taking. It wasn't serious yet, but it was nice. It was hopeful. Roy asked me once, over beers at the Crescent Moon, if I ever regretted how hard I'd gone after Leon. He destroyed his own career, I said. I just made sure the right people knew about it. That's some Old Testament stuff, man. Yeah, well, maybe I'm an Old Testament kind of guy. Roy laughed, but his eyes were serious. Just make sure you don't become what you hate, you know. I thought about that a lot. Was I bitter? Absolutely. Was I angry? Every single day. But I hadn't become cruel. I'd just stopped being naive. I'd stopped believing that being good and kind and steady was enough, that treating people well meant they'd treat you the same way. The last I heard, Britney and Leon were still together, still making it work despite everything. Part of me, a very small, petty part, hoped they'd stay together forever. Hoped they'd have the life they'd burned everything else to build. Because I genuinely believed that a relationship built on betrayal and destruction would eventually eat itself alive. They'd always know what they were capable of, always wonder if the other might do to them what they'd done to someone else. Trust, once broken that thoroughly, never really repairs. Not completely. They could pretend it did, could tell themselves they were different, that their love was special. But late at night, when Leon worked late or Britney came home smelling like someone else's cologne, they'd wonder. They'd always wonder. And that, more than any revenge I could engineer, was justice enough. I sold our house in November. A young family bought it, expecting their first child. I signed the papers in Victoria's office without emotion. That house had never really been mine anyway. It had been the stage set for a performance where I'd been the only one who didn't know we were acting. My new condo had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. On clear nights, I could see all of Omaha spread out below me, the old market lights, the river in the distance, the hospital towers marking the landscape. It looked different from up here. Smaller. More manageable. I never told anyone the full story of what I'd done. Not Roy, not Evelina, not even Victoria. Some things you keep to yourself. But every time I heard an update about Leon's continued struggle to rebuild his career, every time someone mentioned that Britney seemed different now, harder somehow, I felt a small spark of satisfaction. Not happiness. Never quite that. But satisfaction in knowing that actions have consequences, that you can't destroy people's lives without cost, that the universe occasionally balances its books. December brought the first real snow, and with it, a strange sense of peace. Andrea and I were getting serious. She'd met Roy and Evelina, had passed what Roy jokingly called the friend test. She knew about Britney. Everyone in Omaha knew eventually, but she didn't treat me like damaged goods. She just treated me like Sam. One evening, snowed in at my condo with Andrea asleep on the couch and a glass of whiskey in my hand, I finally let myself think about the whole year. Spring to winter, married to single, betrayed to... what? Vindicated? Healing? Something in between? I thought about the man I'd been a year ago. Trusting, maybe too trusting, definitely too comfortable. I thought about the man I'd become. Harder, definitely, but also more aware, more conscious of my own worth. I didn't regret it. Any of it. Not the investigation, not the anonymous reports, not watching Leon's career implode from a safe distance. He'd made his choices. Britney had made hers. I'd simply made sure they lived with the consequences. The past was done. Britney and Leon could have each other, could build whatever life they wanted on the ashes of what they'd destroyed. I had something better, a future I'd built for myself, one where I called the shots, where nobody used me as a supporting character in their own drama. And for the first time in a very long time, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. Thank you for watching the video to the end. YouTube may no longer suggest my channel to you, so subscribe to it to receive new interesting stories. You will also help the channel grow and improve the quality of its content. A playlist with other interesting stories that you can listen to is now displayed on the screen. You can also write in the comments what stories you would like to see on the channel.